Thanks so much for clicking on the video. We are going to be discussing, is Hogwarts Legacy worth it? Why is it good? Why is it getting so much praise? It's breaking records. It is selling well before its even official launch date. I've put in 7 or 8 hours. I'm closing in on maybe 10. And my man here, 30 and So Gaming, has put in even more time than me. We had to pull him away from the game to even do this show. So thanks so much, Mike, for taking a bit of a break from the game to talk with us today.
I appreciate it. I love doing this stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to end the previous stream where I talked about all the records being broken, and I'm going to bring everybody over from the redirect. Make sure as you guys come over to smash the like button. If you're watching the past broadcast, we do this show on Fridays. It's basically what I typically do, which is talk to chat about a topic, but I do it with my friend 30 and So Gaming, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and that way you are here for this when we do it every single Friday. So before we get into, there's a lot I want to talk about. I'm not going to put it on a thumbnail or a title, but I even treaded into the boycott waters today because I was like, I actually think it helped the game. But we'll get there in a moment. I'm gonna whet everybody's appetite to watch the full episode. We'll get into some of the spice, but before we do any of the spice, I just want to get your thoughts on the game because I went in thinking, yeah, I'll like it. It'll probably be like a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10 for me. And it has far exceeded those expectations at multiple levels. So, as somebody who has admittedly put in a ton of time and we know you like it, what were your impressions initially? What did you think going in? Were you hesitant, apprehensive? I myself had apprehension. So I want to hear that from you first before we dive into specifics.
When the game was, when we were leading up to it, even from last year when they first showed the actual gameplay of it and stuff, I was apprehensive, not because of what it looked like or what it was, just because of the way video game industry has been of late with a lot of games. And the last WB that came out was Gotham Knights, which I was just like, okay, well, this is, hopefully it's better than that. And it blew me away. Like, I am not a Harry Potter fan. I enjoy the movies. I've never read the books. And playing this game, I was blown away by what it was. And I know it's the exact same game we've always played, like an Assassin's Creed game or anything like that. But I have just fallen in love with this game. I'm a Hogwarts fan, right? I'm not a Harry Potter head. I'm a Hogwarts head right now. Like, I'm absolutely loving the game. Just in general, it blew me away. The combat is what I was worried about, and the combat is just much better than I expected. I mean, I made a video going, I was worried about how the combat was going to feel. Then they showed us like a month ago what the combat was, or 2 months ago, and I was like, yeah, it seems better. But then once you play it, it's hard to explain it. Like, but once you put it in your hands, you start using the spells and stuff. It's so fluid. It's just really good. Everything about the game is just top notch.
I want to talk about, let's talk about combat first, because I do think that was a barrier for people that thought, well, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, so the combat looks like it's going to get so boring and so repetitive. I myself thought I have a video and a thumbnail on this channel where I said gameplay, it looks weird. That's like literally on the thumbnail. Hogwarts Legacy gameplay looks weird, because it did look a little weird. It was like he's flipping and flinging around, and like he's whipping his wand. And I'm like, am I going to want to do that after 20 minutes? Am I going to want to do that after an hour? And then I was convinced that it was going to be acceptable combat when they showed the Dark Arts Battle Arena. I was like, well, that actually looked pretty good. It looked a little bit more action-oriented. But I didn't think that I was going to enjoy the combat to the degree that I've enjoyed it. And I had a few quibbles, and then those sort of went away once I started getting talents, and I could suddenly do more and do new things. My first thing was, oh, man, combos are great. I can create these little crystals on the ground, but then I got to go collect them because they'll disappear.
Yeah, they disappear. Yeah.
And that's a little awkward when you're trying to like run up, and trying to like roll on the ground. But then I unlocked the ability to where if I hold dodge, I like teleport.
Yeah, you teleport.
And I was like, that has almost a slight Metroidvania feel of like, well, there was a pain point and now I've met the pain point with a new ability.
Right.
And then I was able to enhance abilities that I had already earned and made them feel more action-oriented, more impactful. And I've just scratched the surface of talents, like just that bottom row. And I thought, man, they put so much work into this and surprisingly didn't really delve into it before the game came out, which I think that might have been the right call because we get to discover the depth. What do you think about the depth of combat beyond just like it feels way better than I expected? Talk about the depth and how you've experienced that.
Well, one, leading up to the game, like I was like, are they going to show us stuff? And they didn't. They showed us just a little bit, right? And everything they showed us pretty much was the first, I would say, like hour and a half, like inside the game. Like they didn't really show us outside of that. And I thought the combat, when you said that you couldn't get to the blue dots in the beginning, I did the same thing. I was like, oh, they disappear. I was like, how? I was like, oh man, I don't want to go in because I didn't know, still getting used to the game or whatever. But then I was like, oh, I Levioso'd them and then put them up in the air and they couldn't move. And then I would just run up and grab the stuff and then I would move back, right? So I was doing stuff like this in the beginning. And then I started, this is not a button masher, right? This is not a button masher. You button mash, you're going to start shorting out your wand because you're hitting keys that are not able to do it yet. They're not recharged yet. So if you just like slow everything down, and it almost is like this moment that comes over you, like there's like 5 enemies in front of you early on. You're trying to dodge and move out of the way. You're blocking when you do the shield and you block and you shoot them right back. It just feels so good that the combat depth. And I know people are like, there's not enough spells in the game. There's not enough spells in the game. And I'm like, I think Harry Potter used like 5 spells the entire series. Right? Maybe like 3 the entire series. And I think it was like 5, and he used like 2 of the unforgivable ones, right? So 3 regular spells. So the spells that you're using the exact same ones over and over, but you can do them in a combo sense. Like if I use Levioso, and then all of a sudden, then I use Glacius, and then all of a sudden I use Bombarda. You know what I mean? Like you're using 3, and with your little whip in between, it does fantastic. And the way the combat is, I suggest people, instead of just going out into combat, do the tutorial underneath that little fight ring that happens and using the dummy where the little kid talks to you. Yeah. Do that because it teaches you the combos real fast and like links them up what you can do. So you're hitting like X, and then all of a sudden you hit, right trigger, right trigger, right trigger. Then you hit Y, and then right trigger X, right. And it just teaches you real simple. And the tutorials in this game are just really blend in nicely. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like a tutorial. It feels like you're just being a kid being taught in school at Hogwarts when you're doing the stuff. The combat depth is really good, and it doesn't need to be like over complicated. It's just simple as can be. You have 4 spells, and within those 4 spells, the combinations that you can do with the right trigger. So you have 5 buttons to push, right? And you feel so powerful. And I feel like I'm playing on normal. I don't know what difficulty you're playing on.
Normal.
Okay, normal. I didn't pick story. I picked normal. My next playthrough, I'm going to pick hard because I want to see the difference with the combat. But I just feel like the combat just feels so good, especially with all the combinations. And as you keep unlocking stuff, it just feels better. It just feels more intuitive. And a lot of people are saying that the combat feels clunky. The combat doesn't feel clunky. It's the people that are playing the game are not used to holding the right trigger in as you're hitting the buttons. And if you unlock that second tier where you have to flip the page, you know what I mean? Like where you push up on the D-pad or down. Yeah. That's the clunky part, but that's not the combat being clunky. Once you start figuring that out, it just feels so good and smooth as you're battling.
Yeah, I will say that is one part that I'm not a huge fan of is, as an example, in Ghost of Tsushima, if I hold the button down to change my stance, it slows the game down. And that's not going to happen in Hogwarts because when you hold that button down, you can do any of your attacks. So they can't really slow the game down there. So that the switching from a set of spells to another, I think that's an appropriate amount of pain, though. You have to kind of pick the 4 that you know are the best, and then I have 4 that are sort of for exploration, right? So I have 4 that are sort of set for when I'm like exploring and looking around Hogwarts. And I have like my 4 go-to combat. And some people in chat are chiming in. Christopher Wright says there's actually a talent where you can use the basic magic. It'll actually charge your other spells quicker. Yeah, there's those elements as well. I had a guy come in my chat the other day and he said, yeah, the combat's really boring. It's just spell roll. I'm like, you're not and I hate saying this, but you're not playing right, brother. Like, they literally tell you to go talk to this guy, and the minute I started weaving combos in, it made me play greedy, which I think is good, because then you get punished. I think if a game incentivizes play style and it makes you play greedy and you get tunnel vision, I actually think, this sounds weird to say, I think that's good game design. It means you're properly incentivizing power in the moment for me to chase at the potential risk of damage. And that creates, I think, a really good interplay in the combat where if you really want to keep up your combo and then subsequently keep up that power, that because when you get that L1, R1, the bumper attack, it's huge. It feels so satisfying to do that. You're going to want to use combos. You're going to want to stay on top of everybody. And I like learning their weaknesses. Like, somebody really remarked when I was fighting these spiders, they're like, that looked awesome, because I was intentionally pulling them in, lighting them on fire, blasting them back, and it was like, oh, I want to actually float them, hit them, pull them in. Now that they're weak, I'm going to light them on fire. Like, I came up with my own rhythm of, like, I'm going to fight spiders this way.
I'm going to tell you, when you're playing a spider, I found this out like 30 hours in.
Okay.
When the spider's about to dig, okay, as he's about to dig, you levitate him and they just die one shot.
Really?
Yeah, it's so cool. Like each of the enemies have their own weakness or whatever, right?
Huh.
And it's it's really interesting. I was like, what? Did that just happen? And then I did it again. I was like, that's cool. And then and pardon me, chat, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I don't know what those toad creatures are in the swamp, the big, they look like frogs. I don't know what they're called. But when they shoot their tongue, they're about to shoot their tongue. If you Levioso them, you pull their tongue out and it hangs them up in the air from their tongue, and then you can do a damage combo. And a lot of the reviewers were talking about how the bigger trolls feel too spongy, right?
Yeah.
They're too, but if you start doing combos and you start taking the boulder that they throw at you and throw it back at them, and you build up these combos, you take them out so much faster. And some of the reviewers talking about how the combat was just boring and mundane, I looked at it as, you were just trying to get your review out as fast as possible.
Yep.
You didn't actually take the time to learn. And this is the thing. This game is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Like, take your time with this. Like, take your sweet time with this game. It really is a fantastic little game. And there's little I don't even know what you call them. Not Easter eggs, because I'm not talking about that. There's just little things that you notice when you're starting to combat certain people. You start seeing their weakness. You start seeing their little tails, sort of like a Dauntless or like a Monster Hunter type of thing, right?
I didn't know that they had put in contextual responses to, like, grab him when he's doing the tongue and it'll pull him up by his tongue. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, I just did it by accident and figured it out, and I was just like, oh, and then you just started doing it again. I was like, oh, so you wait for them to take that, they're about to do your strike, and then you lift them up by the tongue, and then you freeze them, and then you hit them with something, it's so good.
Well, I was doing that with one of the knights. Every time they would go to do their swing attack and it was a red attack, I would do Expelliarmus. I would knock their thing out of their hand.
Yep.
And I thought, that's so cool that they give me a tool for an unblockable, unparryable attack. They give me a tool to disrupt it. Like, because a lot of the times in games, you see the red flash and you're like, well, I can't do anything. I have to roll out of the way. No, in this game, I was like, I can play aggressive. Like, that means I can stay on top of this guy. And as soon as he goes to do that, I kept saving it. I was like, bam. And I, like, knocked it out of his hand. And I thought, I wonder if there are other secrets like that. Like, in a fight, like, there's almost like a secret. Like, if you do this or you do that. Because I remember reading the same article, the same review, and they said, the trolls were really spongy or whatever. But they also said that there was too much dialogue. And they also said that they had to fast travel too much. And I was like, oh, and they also said, oh yeah, main campaign only took me 20 hours. And I was like, oh, I know what you did.
I have a question. How is fast travel too much? You choose to use fast travel the way you want to, right?
That's
like,
right.
If I really wanted to go to the Hogsmeade and then back to Hogwarts and walk everywhere or fly my broom or take my mount or do whatever, and I want to make it longer, like, that is so stupid for someone to say that you use fast travel too much. That's on your own. And plus, when to say that that the combat is boring, you play this game how you want to play. Like, if you want to just burn through it, by all means, go ahead. But if you take your sweet time with this, chat's telling the cards tell you about the enemies as well when you find new ones. You go in and look at them, and they tell you the weaknesses and stuff like that. There's just so much info in this game, and they've done and again, they didn't reinvent the wheel here. This is the same game you've played. It's like an Assassin's Creed or Red Dead Redemption, but with a Hogwarts skin, and it's just done well. It's just done really well.
Well, and someone saying that they've not come across a single spongy enemy. Christopher saying that. Yes, because there are tools and tips that say they'll take increased damage if you do stupefy. They'll take increased damage if you put a curse on them. It's like, you got to pay attention. You're just, I guarantee you, I'd love to see footage from these people. It's like they probably just went in the room and they're like just sitting there doing the basic attack over and over again. and Bellix has changed her name to Bellix Granger because she's turned into our Hermione. She's a bit of a know-it-all, and we love her for that. But I'm curious about, she's saying, the collections, the cards tell you their weaknesses. Well, I know that a spider's weak to fire, and so is the frog. That's probably on the card. Does the card hint at all to what Mike was talking about, though? You were saying there were timing things that you could do that created a unique moment, grabbing a frog by its tongue, one-shotting a spider when it's trying to burrow. That, I don't know if that's on the cards or readily available. That sounds like an organic emergent discovery, not something that they tell you can do. Because I remember seeing, they're weak to fire, and then I used fire on them and they died really quickly. These guys are weak to Expelliarmus. I'm going to use that. So I wonder if there are more things like that in the world, because there are so many false narratives about this game. It's striking how dishonest people are willing to be. I remember people saying, the game only has 2 enemy types, and yet it's getting 9s out of 10s. I'm like, there's 69 enemies in the codex?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I don't understand.
And I know some of them are repeats. Some of them are different versions.
They're just variants. Yeah, they're just variants, Lono. That's why. Look, if you break down everything, any game, no matter what it is, and just really focus on, there's only 10 types of enemies, and then they're repeated. I mean, look at Destiny. Look at Assassin's Creed. Like, you look at the same enemies, of course. If you're going into a game looking for its flaws, you're gonna find the flaws that you want, right?
Yeah.
But if you just go into the game, any game, and just let the game tell the story, do the thing, you won't see the wizard behind the curtain, as I always use the analogy, right? The great and powerful Wizard of Oz is always behind the curtain, but as soon as you pull that curtain back, you're like, oh, dude, just a guy behind the curtains. This guy's not a wizard, right? And if you let yourself just go into this world of Hogwarts, you're gonna have a fantastic time. There's someone said it earlier in chat, and I meant to say it, but I went off on a little rant. They said that in battle, when they're off screen, you can block every single thing that's coming at you. You can dodge, you can block, you can counter, right? If you change your settings to unlock, where I forget what the actual, here, I got my game open, so let me just look at what it's called real fast. If you change your settings in the game, where at default, it's wherever your center of your screen is who you're locking on. Yeah. Okay. In Gotham Knights, it's if you move the right analog stick, it would move it over to the next person. So if you go to your settings and shut off, where is it? I believe it's shut off camera relative targeting. Just shut it off. Okay. If they're off screen and you move the analog stick, your camera won't see them, but it locks onto them, and then you can counter them and then hit them. Okay. So
yeah. You know what I do?
It's a huge difference.
You know what I do? I just use the off-camera guys for stupefy. So like I see the warning, and I hold the block to get stupefy, and I stupefy the guy I'm already hitting. So it feeds my combo. Like, I don't even look at him. I'm just like, bink, I blocked you, sucker, and then I go bam, and I hit the guy in front of me.
I'll take care of you in a second. Yeah. I'll take care of you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll get to you in a minute, and then it adds to my combo. Like, stupefy puts another thing on there, then they die faster. Like, I'm telling you, if you can train yourself to not get greedy and to just look for those visual cues and maintain that combo, it's like the game opens up. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is actually a well-built action combat system. Like, you don't even have to be a Harry Potter fan, which I am not a Harry Potter fan. You got two guys sitting here saying, like, I didn't grow up reading the books. I watched the movies once my entire life. I thought they were okay. Like, I thought the first three movies were the same story every time with just older students. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So like, and I'm looking forward to reading the books to my children. We're working our way through Redwall right now, and I'm like, oh, the Harry Potter books will probably be a fun, read with my kiddos. And I went into this expecting to think that was a fun afternoon. I let you guys see the game, and I'm like, trying to convince my wife maybe, hey, you play on that TV, I'll play on this TV. We can't play together, but
Right.
because I want to play this off
Oh, yeah.
stream. Like, that's rare for me. That's a really rare occurrence these days for a game to win me over that strongly. And one of the things I'm known for, chat can weigh in on this because Bellix is saying, read the cards. It's all about reading. I'm reading. I don't read when I play video games. To my peril, I will misunderstand a quest or a mission or something and be like, why is it not working? So to my peril, I don't read. And I was reading everything. Every time I would do, Revelios, and then like, oh, there's a page, I'd read the page, and it would add this really cool lore and backstory. There was like a crunched set of armor, and it talked about this guy learned a really hard lesson. He got like thumped by a troll, and just those little pieces I thought were so well done that I kept telling people, what's your advice? What would you say to somebody jumping in? I'm like, take your time. Don't treat the tutorial like a rite of passage, like, I just got to get through this. It's an introduction to the world. It's an introduction to the school itself. It's not you just learning how to like make a potion. They could have done that in 20 minutes. They could have. But this is a winsome, charming way to get you immersed in the world. And people that are going to fly through it and button mash their way through it, I guarantee you they're going to end up reviewing it exactly like Game Rant. And they're like, too much dialogue and I got bored. It's like, you missed out. You really missed out.
I do the same thing when I play sports games. I say there's too much throwing of the ball inside the sports game. It's just too much sports and sports, right? Like, it's an RPG. Like, you're supposed to have dialogue. Like, I understand if you don't like dialogue games, here's a tip: don't buy an RPG. I know it's crazy, but if you don't like dialogue, don't buy an RPG, because you're going to be bored and you're not going to get the full experience of what that game is, because that game, hate to break it to you, Starfield, going to have a lot of dialogue. Todd Howard told you he's got 250,000 lines of dialogue. Get ready to be bored, okay, if you don't like RPGs. So this game, I think the dialogue in this game is also done well. People are like, well, it's kind of lame and childish. Go watch the first Harry Potter film and go look at Hermione Granger when she's talking. That's not how you do it. Like that. Like, that's how they talk. They're literally mimicking the way they talked in the films.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a one-to-one comparison. It's brilliant. It's absolute brilliant the way they took the level-ton care of this game and made it like the movies. They say it's like the books. I've never read the books. I just basing it off it's just so good. It's so good. Did you meet the person in the library yet, Lono, for the quiz? There's a girl that gives you a quiz in the game.
No, I have not met that character.
Okay, there's a girl, and I was like, this is brilliant for people that are Harry Potter fans. Okay, she sits there, and you need to do something in the library, and she's like, I'm not giving you the book. You have to answer questions for me. And then she gives you like 4 or 5 questions, and they're easy questions, pretty much stuff that you've learned in the game as you played, or maybe if you watch the movies. And then after the 5, she's like, well, if you want to learn more, you can do it. And they get harder and harder. So the person that's like a super Potterhead would just sit there as a mini game and just like give a quiz and see if they like know the answers. And the best part is, if you get the answer wrong, she explains it to you and says, well, this is what it is. And she gives you the backstory of it. She gives you the explanation to it. So it's making you learn the actual lore and the world building inside the game. I was like, oh, this is ingenious. I was like, it's really good.
Yeah, the concise way in which people speak to you, and this is, I think, difficult in writing. I always like this in ESO. You would like talk to an NPC, they would set up the story in a concise way. So like, it's interesting, but it's not this super long-winded diatribe. You're like, okay, cool, I get this now. And then there were optional dialogue options. My favorite part was when during the tutorial, the student from Uganda, she's like telling you about the school called Wagadu, and she's like, oh yeah, it's carved into the mountain. It's bigger than Hogwarts. It's the biggest wizarding school in the world. Oh, and we don't use wands there. It's more instinctive magic. And I'm like, my gosh, like this is cool. Like I didn't know that. Like I'm a non-Harry Potter guy, just sort of combing over the game, and I actually found the dialogue and the writing to not be as kind of childish, cringy, silly like the movies. I thought it was quite a bit better, but they have to write them like students. They have to write them, some of them are young children. You can't have them walking around speaking like adults. And the thing that I enjoyed was nobody gave me cliche, stereotypical responses, because I'm kind of being the cocky Slytherin guy. I'm being super confident, and I'm kind of strutting around, and I thought, like, oh, I'm going to beat Sebastian Sallow in this duel, and then he's not going to like me. But he, like, respected me and, like, wanted to be my friend. And I was like, that's good. That's not stereotypical. Like, it's so stereotypical in the game to, like, be mean to the new kid or to hate the new kid because he's... There is a cliche in the game, like, you're the new kid that's mysteriously gifted, but that's just kind of how these games have to go. Like, oh, we can see trails of ancient magic, and we're exceptionally gifted. You're going to have some sort of centrality orbiting around your character to make your character interesting. If not, you would just be some other student at the school. But beyond that story element, I feel like the way that the professors interact with you and the students, it all feels organic and authentic. It doesn't feel forced or silly. I don't know. I think that if people aren't necessarily enjoying the dialogue, I think that's fine. I think there is a world of content for them to enjoy. But I do think, at the very least, the introduction, it's like you're really missing out on them setting the atmosphere. I love that ACG drew attention to that in his review. I've used that word quite a bit since then. They set the atmosphere of the world really, really well, I think.
Right. Apparently, I had a tone with Kyle in chat because he's freaking out because I called it an RPG. The actual game itself from the developers is an action RPG. That's what it is. So if you want to call it RPG light or whatever, the letters RPG are in the title of what the game is. So Hogwarts Legacy is a action RPG.
Yeah, anytime you have a character with a level, with skills, with talents, and equipable gear that can be leveled up and changed, I don't know how that's not an RPG. Like, I know some games are RPG light or there's RPG influence. This, for all intents and purposes, is an RPG game. Now, it's not Skyrim, but it also isn't, Cooking Mama on your cell phone, right? Like, there are significant elements of RPG here. I mean, goodness gracious, the stats screen and your inventory screen, it's like a carbon copy from Assassin's Creed, the latest Assassin's Creed, that were criticized for being too much like RPGs. And then Immortals Phoenix Rising, NPCs that can be talked to and, purchase equipment from. You know what I mean? Light RPG is much nicer. I mean, whatever. If you want to be pedantic about it, no one,
if you want to get off your horse, like right now you're being an RPG snob. You're like, oh, let me get my drink here. Oh, that's not an RPG. That's not an RPG. This is an RPG. Like, please stop.
Have you seen that stand-up comedian? He's French and he holds wine the whole time. He is fantastic. I forget his name. That's what he does.
I haven't seen it.
He's super snobby. Like, that's his comedy. It is a wonderful shtick. He's very, very funny. I wish I knew his name off the top of my head. Maybe somebody in chat can help us with that. Yeah, and that's fine. Kyle's owning it. He's like, I'm definitely an RPG
Yeah, it's
snob.
fine.
Yeah, if you know you're being pedantic and snobbish, at least you're owning it, and I can respect that. There are people that get a little persnickety about things. They're like, well, wait, that's not that. This, I believe, would be described as an open world action RPG, right? I would put open world and action before RPG. I think when you create that hierarchy, it's fair. You don't have to say light, right? You can just say, oh yeah, it's an open world action RPG. And I think in those categories, there's been a lot of discussion about, well, it's breaking records, and it's just now officially on sale. Well, not officially on sale. It's officially installable, playable. Its launch date has happened right now. So people might be wandering in and wondering, like, is it worth it? Again, if you're enjoying the show, chime in chat. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, unless you don't like light RPGs, then it's not.
Now, the thing that I keep getting asked about is, okay, commercial success is undoubtedly at this point well in hand. This thing is going to be potentially the top seller of the year. If not, it'll be like second place by a slim margin. I don't think there's very many games this year that are hitting this many platforms and also have this large of an IP, right? Diablo 4 maybe will be able to edge it out. I don't know about Zelda. Zelda's a question mark for me because it's one system. So in that realm of like, it's breaking records, commercial success, critical acclaim. The reviews are pouring in, and people are like, well, people are giving it high scores because they're Harry Potter fans. Like, I don't think so. I would have shredded this thing if it wasn't any good, because I was on the fence. I was apprehensive about performance. I was apprehensive about, the combat. And I've been looking forward to plenty of games recently and been like, this game kind of sucked. Like, I don't hold back, and I don't have Harry Potter nostalgia coursing through my veins. But because of this success and because of the acclaim and the record breaking, people are saying, hey, is this thing going to get award nominations? Do you think there are categories that this will get nominated for? And subsequently, do you think it will win any of those categories? Most notably, I'm thinking about art direction, RPG, original score, action game, and then game of the year. Those are kind of the 5 I see that it'll potentially get some attention for.
I can't say without a shadow of a doubt if it's going to win, but this game needs to be nominated for music, art, like game of the year, like combat, whatever. Like it needs to be nominated for like 5-6 categories. If it wins any of those, that's for the people that vote to in the industry to make it clear. If they're not wimps, right? And I say that nicely. Right? If they're not, scared to actually nominate a game that's actually supposed to be nominated. I mean, there's going to be plenty of other games. It's so early on in the year. No other games come out yet, so I can't say if it would win any of those categories because you have, Diablo coming out, Spider-Man coming out, Starfield coming out. I don't know, Atomic Heart, whatever. You got so many other games coming out that we haven't touched or seen yet. So it would be unfair for me to say, oh yeah, it's going to win Game of the Year. It's going to win that. But it definitely needs to be nominated for at least 5 to 6 categories for sure.
Yeah, I made the case this morning. Outside of Final Fantasy 16, I see this getting art direction and winning art direction. Because the level of detail and work they just put into the school itself is remarkable. It really is. Like, it's undeniable. Forget all of the controversy. If you can take off your terminal Twitter illness glasses for a second, you can see that the development team behind this game put an unbelievable amount of work into the school. Just the intricacies, the detail, and the lore, and the accuracy combined with the depth and the breadth. Like, a couple of reviews were like, I got lost in the school. I was like, I didn't know where I was because it's so big.
I was 32 hours in and I found a new room. And it wasn't a room that was like locked behind a door that I needed to pick the lock. Like, I didn't know there was a room. I was like, how did I find this room 32 hours in? And when I tell you, if you guys look, I have all my parts up on stream. Like, I've been playing 5-6 hours straight at times, and I'm going up and down that hallways, looking at everything, doing the spell, trying to reveal everything possible. I'm like, how did I miss this? I found a room yesterday for the first time with close to 40 hours, and I was just like, I passed this 1,000 times and didn't know that was a door. Like, it doesn't show you it's a door. It doesn't come up on the thing as a door. But I don't want to say it because I want people to discover it. To discover it. It's amazing. The intricacy of this, and from the books and from the films, right? So in the books, it describes what the rooms are, right? It describes you like it's in the North Tower or it's in the Bell Tower, and it tells you the description of what these things are. The movie shows you what these things are, and the game has taken the books and the films, and they've made an actual, like, their plan. Like, so this is like official now, right? Like, this is the actual blueprint of what the castle is to a T, right? Mm-hmm. Based on what they got from the books and what they based on the movies. And there's like 100 I think someone says it in thing. I'm sure someone will tell us in chat. I think there's like 142 staircases or 149 staircases in the castle. You get so lost up and down, left and right, going through things, trying to figure out the different puzzles. Have you done the key puzzle yet? Any of the key puzzles yet?
No.
Or you don't even know what I'm talking about?
I don't even know what you're talking about yet.
Okay. So there's key puzzles, there's the chests, there's the locked doors, there's the gobblestones that you have to find. There's just thing after thing after thing to find in this castle. I spent 21 hours in it. 21 hours. I was level like 18 before I left the castle. Just going back and forth. I didn't even do exploring. That's why yesterday I asked you, I go, just curiosity. I was like, what level are you and how much money do you have? Because I had a lot of money because I found a lot of those chests with the eyes that you have to get. They give you a lot of those chests. And then I was just selling everything. And my biggest thing is like, I was like, oh, the storage is really low. I was pissed off about it. I was like,
yeah,
oh, they only give you 20. But then I was like, oh, you got to do this to get the Merlin stuff to get your gear up. And I was like, all right, that's good. Yeah. I was waiting to get room for requirement. I thought I was going to have like a Destiny box or something or Division box where I could just throw stuff in. No.
I like that they did that because I remember that in Spider-Man, that the stuff in the open world, all those little boxes that you're checking and gathering and doing, it actually serves a purpose because it gives you more storage. You're not just doing the Merlin trials for the sake of doing them. It gives you something.
There's a point.
Revelios all around the castle actually serving a purpose, actually meaning that, I get stuff, I get to level. I think that's a significant thing. Now, I do want to circle back just to one thing about the RPG thing, because I don't think this is helpful, because Eugene said, I wish we would draw brighter lines with RPG. Do your choices ultimately matter? Can you affect the main plot points and the outcome of the story? No, not an RPG. Well, you just said that there are no RPGs then. There are almost no games that do that. Even Skyrim was criticized for this, that your choices ultimately don't matter and they don't ultimately impact. So one of the greatest RPGs ever created isn't an RPG because I can't affect the outcome of the story and my choices ultimately don't matter. Like, they do, but not to the degree that I'm going to have like a different ending. Now, I know some games do alternate endings, but that's
Effect.
That's ironically an incredibly narrow way to define an RPG, though, because it's like, well, so none of these games, Assassin's Creed Origins, that's not an RPG. Like, Skyrim's not an RPG. Like, I don't know, Diablo. Like, that, I think, makes it, then it becomes a superfluous word. It doesn't mean anything anymore at that point. You're using it in such a narrow way. Words and categories have a range of meaning and application, and I think it's totally fine to look at a game like this and say, there's loot, there's tiers of loot, there's builds, there's skills, there's talents. I level up. It's an RPG, right? Like, it has RPG elements, Similarly, we use, like, Rogue. Not every Rogue is Hades and Dead Cells, right? Not every Rogue is Returnal. So I think in the world of gaming, it's helpful to think of these as identity markers, not identity definers. Like, you're not defining the entire game's identity. It's like, well, it has an identity marker of an RPG. But it's not an RPG, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Real quick, people were asking me what house I'm in. Me and my niece, we were on vacation in July of the summer, and we took the test together, and we both got into Hufflepuff. So I told her that I would be Hufflepuff first playthrough. So I'm Hufflepuff. I don't like Hufflepuff, but I'm in Hufflepuff. So that's my first playthrough.
You old softy. I got sorted into Slytherin and was pretty happy. There were people in chat predicting that. Like, I had Potter lore nerds that were like, your personality? They're like, you'll be Slytherin. I was like, really? And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay. So I took the quiz, and sure enough, that I didn't know what answers to pick. Like, I wasn't a Harry Potter guy, so I was like, well, these are my honest answers. And that's where I got sorted. My wife's going to play it tonight for members, and I want to see where she gets sorted. Like, I think we might make her do the website first, because I don't think the video game asks you very many questions, does it? It only asks you like a handful. Like,
that I took like a test online for the the website is what we did. The one in the game I think it's 4 questions. It's 4 questions, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like 1 through 4, and then it would be each house. You know what I mean? Like if you pick each of those houses, and then on the algorithm, it's like if you pick 1 and 1, then you're automatically Gryffindor. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you've upset Chad. They said, "What's wrong with Hufflepuff, Mike?" Swayed and Lono.
I didn't pick. I look. It's like a sports team now, right? Now we're all like, I'm this team. Like, look, all the houses are fantastic. Okay, I didn't want to be Hufflepuff. All right, that's what I'm looking at. Like, I wanted to be either Slytherin or Gryffindor, and I got Hufflepuff, so I'm Hufflepuff. All right, so I'm a Hufflepuff. Just like there's someone in the game that says, I didn't want to be. What they say? I don't want to be. I thought I was going to be Slytherin, but I'm Ravenclaw or whatever. And your character asks, what do you mean? You thought you were going to be Slytherin? Like that's it. I was just a little, for the person that I am, taking the test, I thought I would be in a different house. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's very diplomatic of you to be like, all the houses are great. Like, I'm sitting here thinking like, no, dude, Hufflepuff's lame. Like, if Hufflepuff's like actual
it's a
icon,
honey badger.
If it wasn't a badger,
rip your face off.
That's the only redeeming quality. Okay, they always seem lame and like weak, right?
You go tell the badger he's weak and see what he does to your face.
Yeah. Well, their emblem should be like, like a flower or a soft piece of dough or something. The other the other one got a lion and a raven and a snake. Yeah. So I'm obviously kidding. I don't care. Yeah, Hufflepuff is for kids. We had everybody coming in and saying that's been a thing that people have said. Oh, it's for kids game. This is marketed for children. I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. Harry Potter as an IP is not necessarily appealing to children to the degree that it's appealing to people that are like 25 and up who grew up reading the books. I just don't think so. And I don't think this game is kind of built for kids.
I have a question right now for chat. When you go before the Great Hall and look at the hourglasses, okay, in my game, Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, right, have points in their hourglasses, but Slytherin and Ravenclaw have none. I want to know, in your game, if you go up to the hourglasses, if it's the same, or if it's different because you're in that house of like Ravenclaw or Slytherin. Let me know in chat if you actually have points in your thing, because they're empty in mine, but the other 2 houses have actual points in their thing. And I was like, I wonder if that changes throughout the game. I don't know, so I wanted to ask that question to you guys, because you guys can find out real fast in your games right now.
That would be a really big live service clue. If
Cybersword says all even in his game.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, if everybody's house count was the same, I'd be like, hey, wait a minute, wait. That means there's at least some kind of low-level live service going on that all of our games are impacting the hourglasses.
No, I don't mean it like that. I think it was whatever house you're in. So if you're in Slytherin, and if you walked up to your thing, then it would have points in there for you because you're doing stuff for your quest, right?
Okay.
I just want to know if because I'm in Hufflepuff, that's why I have points, or is it like that for everybody? Like whatever house you're in, it has points in your hourglass.
When you start off with -1 million, it's hard to come up strong. Troll says, here he goes with the live service. Well, I was going to go there, so you took us there, Troll. Everybody blamed Troll for having to talk about live service. Mike, do you think there are live service clues in this game? Because I've picked up on a handful of things that seem to indicate they have plans long-term for this.
I said this months before we even knew anything, and now that I've played the game and put a lot of hours in, I see Hogwarts itself as like, and I hate to bring this game up, but it's the tower in Destiny. It's the home base. So let's say if there was live service at one point, okay, I believe that Hogwarts, there's so many different type of games that you can play. Like if this was just the home area, right? We could play again. I don't know the name. I did this last night in my podcast. What's that game that you're pulling the balls towards you? What is that called?
Oh, you do it during the tutorial. I forget. Yeah. It's like reverse bocce ball.
Yeah, exactly. But that game you can play. You could do races. Let's say you could do hippogriff races. You could do broom races. You could do that game. You could do maybe wizard's chess. There's so many things they could actually put in this game. And it doesn't have to be like a co-op, go on a buddy type of thing. It could literally just be, hey, come to Hogwarts. We're all kids in the school. It could be like a small little server base, 10, 16 characters, like are just randomly walking around the school. You play games, you matchmake with people. Summoner's Court. Thank you, Sean. Like it could be stuff like that. Real simple, right? And then if you go outside the walls of Hogwarts, then you go in your own instance of the open world. Potentially, it could be. But yeah, Quidditch, like I see, man, they say 5 minutes in the game, they tell you why it's not there, which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
That there's a lore of why it's not there. But then as you go through the game, they keep dropping those hints like of Quidditch could come back, and you read these notes, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. So it could potentially be a live service game. I don't know. We had this conversation 3 weeks ago.
We debated it. Yeah, we debated it.
Yeah, I think it should be a live service game, and even more so now after playing 46 hours into the game. I'm like, oh yeah, the game feels amazing. I wish your companions went on more missions with you, and I wish there was just like one other person. Like I would love to go on a mission with one other person, just exploring the world and fighting the enemies. It would just feel that much better.
So I know people get tired of me banging on this drum, but I'm going to bang on it because there are, number one, since the first debut of this game, I kept telling people, I said, my instinct tells me the headlines will be, it's a surprisingly deep RPG, especially once we saw the customization in the
light RPG. We've already established this, Lono. Come on.
I swear to this is the last time I'm having you on the show. But I was saying that from the beginning, and I think that's because my spidey sense is attuned to live service games because of all of the Destiny coverage. I think that's where my brain goes. It's like, And I realized something yesterday. This just dawned on me as you were talking. So one of the things that has come up is the room of requirement. People are like, I would love to show my room of requirement to people. Kind of like how you could do it in New World, right? You could invite somebody into your house and it would show them your house and it wouldn't really affect the server itself. And yesterday, when I was in the room of requirement, I was like, oh, I'm going to plant these seeds so that I can make some potions and it's going to take 8 or 9 minutes or whatever. And I left and I did that thing where you can advance time. You can click to wait on the map. And then I went back into the room of requirement to see, oh, did it skip time? And it didn't. And the room of requirement seems to be its own instance that is not attached to the entire game. It's not attached to the clock of the game, what's going out in the actual game world. It's its own thing. And I don't think you can you just walk in there, or do you have to fast travel into there? I can't remember.
No, you can walk in. If you walk up all the way up to the tower, the stairs, the wall opens up, you walk through, just like you did for the main mission, instead of you just walk into that door. Yeah.
So it's a lengthy journey, and you have to go through a door, right?
Yeah, but really, you're going to fast travel unless you're over there.
But is the door closed when you get there every time?
Yeah, but I've only been there once through the actual door after the fact. I think it loads. I think it goes into an instance, if I'm not mistaken. You don't open up and go right in, but you go in the door. I think there's a load screen, and then you're in the room of requirements.
Because there's the under area that you go with Sebastian. Have you gone there yet? And then Ominous gets mad at you because he doesn't want other people to know. Okay, so that I don't know if the room of requirement does this, but that one I have to hold a button, and then it puts me down in there. I can't just open the door and go down there. It actually makes me hold a button.
Yeah, it's an instance, like when you go into the dungeons, certain dungeons. Yeah,
right. And so for me, those pieces in the game that are doing that seems peculiar to me, because it's like, well, wait a minute. Why would you not just let me sort of open the door and do the little spinner load time? You seemingly have built areas where I have to sort of load into it. There's been missions like that where you hit a little thing, then you go in. This reminds me of Anthem. You would go to do a mission and you'd have to hold the button down and then boom, and it would load you and your buddies into the mission. And because somebody in chat said there's no way they could make this game multiplayer MMO. So much of it's built for single player. And I'm like, but how do you know that? There's so many instances seem like you transition from the wandering and the roaming to the, we need to instance you into this so that you can go into this area. That screams MMO that screams live service. Like RPGs, yes, they do this. They do. But the loading and the instancing is different. And the other thing that seems odd to me, I don't know if you've noticed this, people have tried to explain this away, and I'm like, you can't explain this away. You'll go to an assignment, and it'll say, oh, go to so-and-so's class. And then you hit start quest, but what it does is it makes you sit down on the ground, it fades to black, and then fades up, and you're sitting on the ground, and then you stand up because you were literally waiting.
Yeah,
like,
if it's like nighttime and you have to wait for daytime, it makes you wait, then comes back during the day, and then it starts the quest. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, I get it. No. There's an internal clock, but if I hit start quest, why wouldn't you just start the quest? Like,
it could be because it's and again, I'm not a coder, but if the coding is like, okay, when they get to this spot and it's nighttime, we got to make it daytime because that's when the it censors it to go, because they didn't create that scene at night, right? So it needs to be daytime. Click that button, and then it lets you into the classroom. And then because there was one time I did wait, and then all of a sudden I didn't wait. It was the time was clicking around. I went into the astronomy class, and then through the trap door, and I was about to wait. And then the clock struck where I guess it was like daytime between like night and day. And everyone just appeared in front of me. Like they went pop, 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 and then they all just walked in the cloud. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't have to wait. So I think it's more of a scripted thing. I don't think it's more of an instance thing for that example. I think the example you're saying about holding X, that's definitely an instance. And that could definitely be like, me and you want to play together. Hey, you go to that dungeon and we meet at that dungeon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, my only thought is, though, that means then when you're doing those missions, it's happening in the world. It's you're not going and just starting a mission and then suddenly Professor Fig is there talking to you and it's daytime, or suddenly the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher is just suddenly there talking to you and the quest starts. That means that the actual mission is happening in the world, which again, that feels like an online service element of like, well, these things are really happening in the world of Hogwarts. It's not just some single player game, because think about it. In Horizon Forbidden West, when you go start a quest or something, there were some quests that happened at dusk and at night, and it would just load in the quest for me. It would do a cutscene, and then it would be dark out. It wasn't like, oh, we got to make you wait, because it was my game. It wasn't, this doesn't feel exactly like my game. It's like, yes, I'm playing my missions and quests, but I'm playing them on your time. I'm playing them in your world. Right. And that to me, again, just is like, there's something here. There's an undercurrent here that feels built and prepared for something bigger than just what we have at the moment.
Do we know? I didn't look into it. Does this game have to have online, or can you play it offline?
Oh, I don't know if anybody's tested that.
I don't know. If you got to be online, I'm not saying that means it's definitely a live service game, but if you have to be online, then there's definitely something coming down the line that they're going to add to the game. If it's co-op or just whatever, I just feel like I said this months ago. I said this a couple of weeks ago on the other podcast we did. I said the room of requirements doesn't make any sense to me. That unless you have like a brother or sister, a mother or father to sit over your shoulder and go, "Hey, look what I did! Look what I put." No one cares, right? And unless you're a streamer to go, hey, look what I did with my room of requirements. Nobody can see your stuff. Like,
right.
Millions of people are going to buy this game, and you're going to spend tens and 20 and 30, 100 hours in the room of requirements decorating and stuff, and no one can see it except yourself. Now, obviously, people are like, well, there's been games like that in the past. Sure. But then look at what Animal Crossing did. Animal Crossing is a single player game. Okay. And you can bring co-op, and they're just like, minions coming along with you. You have no interaction, or you can't do anything. It's like one person, you're just kind of there on the island. But other people from other places fly into your airport, and then they come into your island. They can see your island. That makes that game so much better, because even though you have no friends or whatnot, you could sell something on your island, and someone could visit your island and go, oh, that's pretty cool. And they can see certain things. This feels like the same type of thing where someone could just come to your room of requirement. Like, you come, I invite you into my world, my server, right? It's sort of like an instance, like in Division, you're the host. Okay, you come into my world and you can come into my room and see certain stuff and go, oh, where'd you get that? Oh, I got it from here. Let's go get it for you. And then you can go on a mission together. It just feels like that should be in the game. And maybe it was in the game at some point.
Right.
Or maybe they have some plans. Maybe this will be, and I've said this in the past, maybe it'll be like a Grand Theft Auto esque type of online afterwards. Like the game's out, people enjoy the game, they play the game. It's like 6 months down the line, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, ta-da! We have a Hogwarts online section." Which in the menu system, instead of going into your single player game, continuing, you go into the online version of the game, and then maybe you could, like I said, play the games together, do races together.
Right. Even the way the game loads up, you have your 4 character slots. You pick your character. You see your character standing there. They're in their room of requirement. That room behind you in the opening screen, it changes according to what you've done in the actual game. And there's more clues here. We've got somebody saying, there's a mission where you have to learn about a spell, and it says that you have to do it solo. Well, why would it say that? I mean, I know sometimes people come with you, but like, oh, you must do this solo. Like, what the huh?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't matter if I'm not online. And then another great clue:
Right.
Why are they censoring the names that we're choosing if we're never going to be online with other people? Like, who cares? If I want to make my name Buttface McButt, like that's my name.
Right. Exactly. Because if I use a curse word or something in my name, who cares if I'm the only one seeing it? Right. I don't know. It is a little strange with their requirements for the game. Silent Warrior says 40 plus hours. Would you multiplayer work with the quest and dungeons? I get a little games of Quidditch, but not overall gameplay. I think for the overall gameplay, the way it would work is that obviously everyone that's playing the game is at a different level, right? And every mission you go on, every dungeon you find, every Merlin thing you do, there's challenges to do. You could just, like, if Lono wanted to play with me and he's like, hey, where did you get that outfit? I know where I got it. I got it from this dungeon, right? And then we go to that dungeon and we just go through, and then he gets it. It's just that's simple. Like, you could go into dungeons multiple times, right? It's not like it's one and done and then it's over. Certain things are one and done. Like once you activate the Merlin thing, that Merlin thing is activated. But the poacher camps, the dungeons, those are all still there, and you can constantly still go and XP farm if you really wanted to. As far as the loot system, there are already people loading the game up. They didn't like what they got, so they load the game again, open the chest again, get a different piece of gear. So the loot system itself is a little different every single time. I don't know if it's a pool per, like, let's say, I don't know what the champion's chest or collectible chest is. Maybe that's the one that constantly rotates, but maybe the gear that falls out in the world is the exact same of a pool. I don't know. I'm not really looking at this as a looter. You know what I mean? It's more of a go on an adventure, get a piece of gear, drop the piece of gear, like destroy it or pay for it. I don't know.
Yeah. That's really interesting, though, that loot is not static. I don't know. That just seems like another signpost of... I was out in the world... I was telling this to the chat this morning. When I was out roaming the open world yesterday, I landed in a spot and there were some spiders. And then I landed in another spot and there were some wolves. And their names pop up and they have a level and they have a health bar. And it just reminded me of New World. Like, I haven't felt like that since I played New World. Like this sort of living world where you land in certain areas, there might be frogs or wolves or spiders. And they have their level. And they have their attacks, and then they come back. They're not gone. Like, I can't just like go clear an area and then they're never gone. And so, I don't know. It's like that. I think there is so much more beyond what we're seeing, and randomized loot in chests. That's because I told people. I thought about that the one day I was in Professor Fig's room. And in the corner of the room was a chest. I went and grabbed it. And I told somebody, I said, oh, make sure and check that chest. I got a really good, it was, I think, like a shirt. Like, it was, like, legendary.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, oh, I got something completely different from that chest. And it didn't dawn on me till just now that, like, well, wait a minute. Why would that be? Like, wouldn't... That means you could play this game multiple times and never have the same experience with respect to the loot and your appearance, unless you're insanely exhaustive and you somehow get every single item in the game.
Right. Well, you also can backfill your gear as well, which is kind of weird. So if you're like a level 26, and all of a sudden you have other pieces of gear on you, if you activate the 27s and then go out in the world and get a piece of gear, it'll be level 27. Like it'll start backfilling the pieces. So I don't know if there was at one time, maybe they were doing something like that where it was supposed to be like a looter type aspect. But yeah, if you have like 3 pieces of gear that are level 27, and then you go to the store and pick up a piece of gear to fill that one spot that's like level 20, then everything else will fill in. It's interesting the way they're doing it. Again, it's a single player game, but yet there's assets of it. You're like, that seems like a looter. That seems like an online type of service game. So there's little sprinklings across the way.
Yeah, Crowded House says, I heard enemy variety is severely lacking. Is that true? No. All of the negative press about this game, I have to say it, it's just unsubstantiated. A lot of it's just flat out lies. There are people that are just flat out lying about the game. They have their own reasons for that. I think we're actually going to, maybe use the second half of the show to talk about that element of this game's success. But there are 69 different enemy types. Now, some of those are like, there's like 3 or 4 different versions of spiders. That's true in most games. So I would say there's probably 20 to 30 unique enemies, and each of the variant types have their own weaknesses and things that they do differently. Even the spiders, I was having to change my strategy and do things that were, different. So the people saying that are just, they're lying, which is related to what I wanted to talk about. I touched on it this morning. Like, I refuse to make a title, thumbnail, or show about the boycott and about all the controversy. I say it's controversy in quotations. It's just so unbelievably hyperbolic, overstated, and silly. But I said this morning, I think the boycott helped this game because it trended on Twitter for weeks. And I think whenever you give people this choice, like choose a side, I do think it makes people choose a side. And I also think there's tons of people posturing on Twitter who will play it in secret. I do. I think there's plenty of people that are like, okay, I might agree with you that there's been some stuff said on Twitter by the original author that maybe I don't agree with, but that doesn't mean I can't buy the game, right? I think there are people that they don't like. Life is not so black and white as people like to make it on Twitter. It's like they live in Disney like movies where the villain is 100% villainous and the good person, the hero, is 100% heroic. And it's like real life never breaks down that cleanly. And so where did you land on that aspect? Like, you knew people were probably going to maybe give you some guff in comments or whatever, and do you think we have a Streisand effect, that they drew so much of a heightened level of attention for the game that it's contributed to its commercial success?
One, anybody that watches me or has watched me or known me for years knows I don't give 2 craps about what someone's going to tell me what to play or not play. I don't get caught up in all that stuff. I'm going to play, and if someone wants to call me a name, they're not educated enough to realize they're the ones being bigoted, right? Because bigoted works both ways. Like, if I'm bigoted towards someone because I'm playing a game and you hate me because I'm playing that game, and you're also a bigot. So it's extremely, I don't care about that type of stuff. As far as the Streisand effect, 100%. I know at least 10 people that have bought multiple copies of the game just because this person was like, you're hurting people. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, then I'm going to buy 10 copies and hand it out, because that's ridiculous, right? Someone, not to diminish anything across the board. If transgender people are being picked on or being targeted in any way, that's not to take anything away from them, but don't try to boycott, because it's not a boycott. A boycott actually works. Like, if you boycott something, you'll go, oh man, they sold 100 copies. The boycott worked. This has sold tens of millions of copies of games. So I wouldn't really say that the boycott worked in any way, shape, or form, or if you can call it a boycott. It's just a small minority of people being loud because of social media. And if it wasn't because of social media, we wouldn't even see this as a blip on the radar. I would almost go about saying that this could have been, because of the way society is, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole here, but this could have been planned from the start to make a loud voice of nothing, to give them guerrilla marketing, as far as where the best advertisement is just getting the name out there, and people are going, "What's Hogwarts? Why does Hogwarts hate it so much?" Oh, it's because of the author. Well, the author has nothing to do with the actual game, right?
Yeah.
Sure, she created the Hogwarts Legacy, or I'm sorry, the Harry Potter world. Okay, but the parks at Universal Studios are packed, solid. Are people not paying tickets anymore because she said the statements? I'm sure there are people out there like, I'm not supporting Universal Studios anymore because of Rowling, what she said, JK said. But that's such a small thing. And if you're that person, bravo, like stand up for your rights and stay strong to what you believe in. It's lonely sometimes where you believe that everyone hates you or no one's on your side. But if you stay true to yourself, okay, it'll all work out. So if you don't want to fund someone's things because of the way they have opinions, you have your opinions. She had her opinions. If you don't agree with them, that's fine. But the overall statement of this boycott, this is not a boycott. This is just this is completely what's the opposite of a boycott? What's something when it's literally one of the most popular games on the planet.
Like a marketing campaign is the opposite.
It's a marketing campaign, right? Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I've refused to engage on Twitter because it's probably a wasted effort. But I saw an exchange between two people, and somebody was just genuinely asking. He was like, "I honestly would like to know what's the deal here," and he's like, he said, "What's the problem?" And so some guy says, "Well, money to the game goes to her, and she puts money to bad organizations." He says, "Okay, well, what organizations?" And the guy couldn't tell him.
Right, of course not.
And he was like, "I'm confused. You asserted a position that you asserted a claim, and that means that the pressure's then on you. Like you burden of proof is on you." Right. And to be like, I've bought in hook, line, and sinker to this narrative, and yet I can't substantiate the narrative. You can't even prove or point to, oh yeah, this. Like, that's what drove me crazy about this, is like, I literally can't find any evidence. I've searched. I went to Google. I went to articles, and it's all, they claim it, but then they don't prove it. And then, they'll point to a tweet claiming it. And it's like, I feel like we're in that age of, you'll read an article that makes a claim, and you're like, well, where's the proof? And they're linking to another article that makes the claim, and you're
like just a bad telephone,
and all the way down. And then it's like, so people are this angry, this hot and bothered, this strong in their convictions and opinions, and they're doing it with zero proof. And I'm like, man, oh man, do I relate to that?
Yeah,
like,
right? Comes
very
sounds very familiar. Yeah,
very
sounds
familiar.
Very familiar. Yeah.
Yes. Let's just absolute blood and vinegar. Get the pitchforks out. Let's burn down this village. Well, do we have any proof? Well, no. But
we don't need any proof. It's 2023. Well, it's funny because when people come in, they're like, "Have you been harassed?" I've had a couple people, but you know what? It's like a fart in the wind. Someone says something and it moves along pretty fast when you ignore it. Okay, it's just it doesn't matter, because if someone calls me a bigot for buying a video game, take a look in the mirror, man, because you're using technology which has been used where there's proven like slave camps and stuff like that for people using things, right? So don't get up on your high horse and tell me what's right or wrong, and meanwhile what you're tweeting on is something that's a problem in the world as well. So I don't care about much of this stuff. I'm going to enjoy the game regardless if someone hates me. Imagine that, hating someone for playing a game. They just want to sit back and kind of escapism from the world that we live in. And these people are just trying to hone down in on you about what's right or wrong. You're like, dude, I'm just playing a video game. Right? If I was in my 20s, I would just smoke a blunt and just play a video game. Leave me alone.
Right. Like, I saw somebody defend against that. Like, oh, you're probably using an iPhone or wearing designer clothes. Like, you're okay with that. And their defense of using Twitter also. It's like, well, you're using Twitter. Do you know who owns Twitter? You're right. You think he's on your side on this issue? And their point was, well, I have to exist in society while also trying to fix society. And I was like, you just betrayed your insane high level of privilege. So you think existing in society is wearing designer clothes and owning an iPhone. That's not existing in society. There are plenty of other alternatives to existing in society. Those are now presumptions to your level of living that you're not willing to give up. You're not willing to make a genuine sacrifice. You're willing to tweet and attack other people because, well, I mean, hey, that doesn't cost you anything. That doesn't actually change your life. That this would. So I have to exist in society. It's like, listen, I'm not telling you to not grocery shop and to not pay your bills so the electricity stays on, but you don't need to use electronics or designer clothes or designer shoes that is made at the loss of human flourishing in other places. You just look the other way. You're like, well, I can't do anything about that, but I can tweet and attack other people. Well, Here's
the thing. If I'm going to boycott something, nobody's going to know. You know who's going to know? Me, right? If I want to boycott something, I'll be like, well, I'm just not going to buy that, not going to shop there, not going to do this. But I'm not going to go to Twitter and be like, who's with me? I'm not doing a Jerry Maguire moment going, I'm boycotting. Who's boycotting with me? Who's coming with me to boycott this? Like, just do your boycott, man. Just don't buy it, don't support, don't do anything, but don't tell other people what to do. Just be yourself. And if you don't want to, if you feel icky because you're a streamer and you feel like if you play this game, your trans friends, your gay friends, your LGBT friends are gonna hate you, then they're not really your friends. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're transgender, gay, lesbian, whatever, okay, hate you because you bought a game, then they weren't really your friend to begin with. And you just kind of move on.
Right. Yeah. I continue to call that a tyrannical view of friendship. I said it's like the Borg. They want to assimilate you. They don't want to be your ally or your friend.
Right.
They want to assimilate you through brute force, that you need to look exactly like them and think and talk like them, or else you're not their friend. It's like, how brittle and fragile are you that you can't be in proximity with people that don't think the way that you do? Like, are you that you're that fragile and scared of differing viewpoints? Like, the other thing about this that I laughed the other day, and I did a little bit on it, and it was funny, but at the same time I made sure the guy knew, like, I wasn't taking a dig at him because he's a member of the community and he's a nice guy, and he basically was like thanking me for taking a stand by playing it, and I was like, I'm not taking a stand, I'm just playing. It's like, imagine the level of privilege that you're gonna come from to think that, like, I'm making a stand, like, as you play a video game in the safety of your own home. Like, really? Like, no, I'm not taking a stand. I'm just playing the game. Now, when it comes up, I stand for truth and accuracy and intellectual argumentation as opposed to fallacious argumentation like poisoning the well or genetic fallacies where we're trying to connect all these dots to JK. I love what people in chat are saying about, are you going to boycott Sony? You going to boycott Steam? You going to boycott Xbox? They're all making money from this. They're making direct money from this property. I'm not making any direct money from the property. Like, your videos have made money. No. I ain't making the money that Sony's making.
Yeah, it's like 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon, right? Because she came up with the idea, then this company made the idea, and then this person's shipping the idea, and then you're buying the idea. So, like, if you're not going to support her, then you can't support the game, this console, the company it's on, the TV you play it on. Like, you can't, like, you can't just pick and choose. Like, if you're going to go down this line and say, well, we got to boycott this, then you got to boycott everybody else that's supporting that thing, right?
Yep.
So,
they won't burn all those bridges because those bridges would affect their career. They won't burn the bridges with the press because plenty of the press has covered it. The press has covered it. Like, you're going to burn the bridge with every single gaming outlet out there? Like, I dare you to boycott and speak ill of Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. See how that goes well for your streaming career when you're burning bridges with all them. But you'll happily burn bridges with content creators. And do you want to know why? Because they're your competition. And you have no problem tearing them down because they're just an obstacle in your way to whatever version of success that you think you're aiming at, but you're not daring to go after. Even the Purple platform had an ad campaign. Why don't stream. You're supporting an infrastructure that benefits the game and subsequently benefits her. Like, that would take real sacrifice. That would take real integrity and courage and consistency. And they don't have it. And I remember it was in Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 2. I have this in my phone because I love it. Data says, "Do you consider your position so weak that it cannot withstand debate?" And I'm like, that is such a scalpel into so many issues. It's like, you won't debate, you won't discuss, you won't provide proof, you scream, yell, and block because you're children, you're juvenile. Like, you don't have the ability to even enter the debate. To make the claims that money goes to her and goes to bad organizations, I've not seen a single person substantiate these boogeymen bad organizations. They're like, the proof's on you. Burden of proof's on you. If you're going to walk around making that claim, then prove it. I haven't been able to substantiate that with any proof, and I've done my own research. I can't find it. So all they've done, in my opinion, is push the game commercially higher.
Oh, sure.
Push the game to higher levels of success before it even launched. Today's the launch date.
Yeah, today, right. I feel like it's been 14 days since it's launched because I've been playing so much, and it literally comes out today. It comes out today. We've only had 3 days early access. I flew to New Zealand, so I had an extra day. But, that was... Yeah, I took first class to New Zealand. So yeah, the problem is, and someone asked in chat, I forget who the name is. I'm sorry. Let me scroll up. Said, what about if it's Speed Shutter Speed said, what about if it's family members? Well, it's very simple. If it's a family member that's part of the LGBTQ or trans or whatever, okay, and you want to play that game so bad, but you don't care about your sibling, your brother, your father, your mother, whatever, and you choose to play the game over them, and it hurts them. Well, that's a personal situation, right? And if that person says, I would really appreciate if you didn't play the game because of this, and you're like, okay, I respect you. But would you go online and go, well, I can't play it because my dad, my mom, my brother, my sister is this, and you can't play it either, right? Like, you would have to take it individually and talk with that person, because that's what adults do. They talk to each other. They just don't give an ultimatum of, you either play this or I take you off as being my son or my daughter because of it. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I have always wondered if, the people that are, pushing this hard, sometimes I wonder if they really truly believe it, because I for one, I will 100% own this and be transparent. If I was still streaming on Twitch and I was still in the community that I was in, I would have skipped this game. I would have said, it's not worth it. Like, deep down in my heart, I'd have been like, I can play this game and my conscience would be completely clear. But I would have 100% given over to fear. And I'd have been like, yeah, I'm not going to play it. I'm standing in solidarity with the because I wouldn't have wanted to lose my friendships and my connections. Now, I wouldn't have been malicious. I wouldn't have burned bridges and blocked people that played it. But I'd have been like, yeah, I'm not gonna play the game. And in the back of my head, I've been like, it's not worth the loss of friendships. I'm putting those friendships in quotations because those are not real friends. Like, if a friendship and a connection is based on an ultimatum, then it's not a friendship, that's a contract. And I know I would have 100% given over to the fear. And I wonder how many people are in that boat, that they're like, I don't agree with nasty things that may have been said on Twitter about these people, but I can buy the game, but they're not going to, at least not publicly, because they're scared. And I think that level of fear spreads very quickly.
If I was on Twitch, I'd do the exact same thing. I would be one of the people that actually streams it, and I have no problem being who I am. And if someone wants to call me names or whatever, I'm 44 years old. I'm too old to care what people think I am, but I know who I am. You know what I mean?
Hang on, I gotta put this person out of the chat. Thank you, Slow Mobius, for renewing. Fat Steven Seagal with a $2 tip says, video games are not the monster under the bed. And thank you, Rex, for the brand new membership. Make sure you guys are hitting subscribe so you can talk in the chat. We're reading your comments and trying to pull them into the discussion. Also, make sure you're smashing the like button. A really solid turnout for this two-man show that we do on Fridays. And Again, I appreciate that we can talk about it in chats, chats being for the most part charitable. I just had to get rid of somebody who was just openly saying they were a bad
You
person.
have to talk about it though. You know what I mean? That's the thing. People are afraid to talk about stuff because they're afraid that other people's opinions and thoughts are going to hurt them in some way, shape, or form physically. Where you just talk about it. Like talk about it. If I have family that's gay, okay, and they didn't say, "Hey, you're not going to play that Harry Potter game, are you?" Because I heard they're like, "Hey, have fun," right? It's not a life or death situation, right? They're completely different things. If you're being physically harmed by someone, is a completely different conversation than an author 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon away from me playing a video game, hurting someone across the world or whatever. It's just me playing a video game.
Well, I made it personal for myself. I said, listen, imagine George Lucas is still getting royalties from Star Wars. I don't know if he is or not, but let's just say that he is. He created the universe of Star Wars, and let's say he's still getting royalties.
Right.
If he lost his mind and he got on Twitter and he went on a tirade about how much he hates a certain people group, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't agree with him. But I would not suddenly say, well, a huge part of my childhood, I have to torch it. I have to get rid of my shirts. I have to
everything. Gotta
get rid of the books. I can't play Jedi Survivor. Can't watch Mandalorian. I wouldn't do that. And to ask people to do that, to literally say, listen, you need to jettison a fabric of your life, something that you did as a kid. Like, people are like, they minimize it so much. In one hand, they're standing for people like this is their identity and their life. And it's like, yeah, and that's a major part of my life too. What if it got me through a hard time? What if it formulated what I think about people in the world because I read it as a kid? Like, just rip it out of your life, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are people that are like, I'm never supporting that again, right? My father-in-law is one of those people where if a company does something, he's done. They're dead to him, right? And he won't shop there. He won't do anything. And he's not asking me to not shop there. He's not asking me. And that's the difference, right? If you want to go burn all your jerseys because someone that you looked up to did something wrong and the past is the past. If you don't buy anything else in the future, cool. But to tell other people because the way you feel about something that they should feel the same way about you, it's completely two different things. You know what I mean?
Right. And the big pushback is, a lot of people will say there's no ethical consumption. And that's where a lot of people are focusing on that. They're like, oh, you heard, a nice speech about ethical consumption. And it's like, I'm not even taking it in the realm of there's no ethical consumption. I don't even think I need to go that far with such an anti-intellectual position. It's not an intellectual position. It's not really worthy of that much thought. It's very easy to dismantle it by just pointing out the fallacies, the genetic fallacies, the poisoning of the well fallacy. Like, it's an argument that's built, it's like one fallacy built on another, built on another, built on another, and then you don't get imperatives and morals from fallacies about, also consider this, it's subjective immaterial beliefs. These are not absolutes. You believe this, and then therefore you believe this other thing about this person. And that's the foundation. And then we just stack fallacious argumentation on top. Well, genetic fallacy. Yeah, she did bad things, said bad things, therefore poisoning the well fallacy. Oh, yeah, you support it, therefore you are. It's like, what in the, what, huh? You just stacking a fallacy on top of a fallacy. It's not even logically sound. It's illogical. So I'm not taking a stand. I'm playing a video game.
That's exactly right. I'm playing a video game. That's exactly right.
And as far as long-term plans for this game, do you anticipate anybody changing their position in the wake of commercial success and longevity? Like, if this thing goes far, or do you think people have fully committed? No, I'm painted myself into a corner. I'm never touching that game. Or do you envision anybody being like, I've kind of thought about this. I've been won over. I think I can play the game now.
I'll tell you, it depends on what the predicament is. Let's say a streamer on the purple platform is right now gung-ho, and they're like, I am not supporting this because of my friends. I'm with them. I stand with them. And then all of a sudden, they start noticing the people that are streaming that game are making a crap ton of money, right? Because they're getting viewerships up, 1,000 viewer, 2,000 views. They're just hitting it, and they're looking at that going, oh man, that could have been me. right? And then Hogwarts 2 comes out or some DLC comes out, and that person is still sitting in that directory. They look at it and go, man, my stand is really, but I'm not getting any viewership. They're like, you know what? I'm going in. I'm gonna go in, right? That might happen because you know what? In that industry, money talks, baby. Like if you got to be relevant and you got to do what you got to do, and that's just the way it is. You got to do what you got to do to make it whatever you're trying to do. Now, there's other people that are not streamers that go, like my father-in-law would be like, this is dead to me. I'm never touching this again until they come out and say this huge apology or something, and then he'll be like, all right, they're back in my good graces again, right? There are those people as well, right? And that's just it. Personally, I think most of these people are, speaking of streamers, they're like the wind, man. They change with the wind. They morph. They're like chameleons. They look like they're supposed to be a part of something, and then in the split second they'll jump ship to the other side and make themselves look like the ship, or make itself look like the tree, or make themselves, because that's what it is. They'll do what they have to do to be in good graces.
Well, and if it's always an opportunity to hurt and harm others, they jump at the chance. Like the thing I was sort of the most shocked by was streamers using their platform to spread spoilers. I thought, my word, the lack of self-awareness. Yeah, like retweeting spoilers to ruin the end of the game and then encouraging others to do so. Encouraging others to like look for the hashtag and spam spoilers, which it's just a remarkable dissonance, and it's a cognitive dissonance. It's like, so we've spent years as streamers having things spoiled for us, and we've always thought the same thing. We thought that's a miserable person spreading misery, and I think that's generally right on the money, accurate.
Right. Yep.
So that it still applies. It's like, how miserable are you that that's your petulant, childlike response to? It was almost like, I think they were under the delusion that they were winning. Like, yeah, we're gonna really slam anybody that plays it, and we're really gonna take a stand. And it's like, yeah, not everybody thinks the way that you think. Like, the world's not that small. I know when you insulate yourself on Twitter, you might think that everybody thinks the way that you do, but it's because you've bubbled up, right?
You're in
this bubble, and the fact that didn't happen. People were going to play it anyway. Big streamers were going to play it anyway. Thing starts crushing it with viewership, crushing it with sales, crushing it with review and critical acclaim. And it was like, well, the only thing I can do now, in an utter state of desperation and powerlessness, I'm going to throw a tantrum and spoil the game for people. It's the classic powerless person grabbing the only power that they can grab. And it's like, everything you did demonstrably failed. So now all you can do is spread the internal misery that you feel by, I'm going to spoil the game. I didn't get my way, so it's time to throw a childlike tantrum on Twitter.
Well, two things in chat right now. Mohammed says the boycott failed even more because the game is actually good, and I'm going to put a pin in that because it is really good. And then the next person underneath says we used to just change channels, right? Like if you didn't like channel 4, you go to channel 5 and see if it's better, right? Like that's what it is. You change the radio channel, you change the TV channel. If you don't like something, you don't watch it. In this day and age, people hate watching, or they love that. I remember, not to bring up bad memories, Lono, but what happened to you, I remember the day after I had the biggest viewership that I've ever had because people wanted to know what I thought, right? And within 30 seconds, I said, if you're here to watch me tell you what I think it is, I was like, you might as well just get out now because it's not going to happen, right? And the numbers dropped dramatically because they're just there to watch the drama. They don't give two craps about you or me or anything else. They just want to munch as much as they can. It's like watching a car wreck, right? Just watching it burn, not going in to help the person burning in the car. They just like watching the actual car burn. So going back to an actual good game, right? It's a fantastic game. And for years, the industry has been telling us that no, microtransactions, battle passes, all of this stuff is a necessity for cosmetics. And here we are with a single player game as of it stands right now, okay, on the February 10th. And it's a good game. You play the game, you unlock all the cosmetics in the game, minus the pre-order bonus, which you can buy after the fact. On the front page of the game, it says additional content. You can purchase it after. Besides that, you're earning everything in the game. You play the game, you want to look cool, you find it in the game. It's a 100% finished game. They made a game, they sold a game, and it's a really good game. And if it's a good game, it's going to rise to the top because people are going to go, this is a good game, and more people are going to go, wow, that is a good game. And then more people are going to buy the good game, right? I've played 3 games in the last 3 months. I played High on Life, Hi-Fi Rush, and now Hogwarts Legacy. All 3 of these games are phenomenal games, right?
They all 3 start with H. I wonder.
They do. It's a thing. You have to. The next game has to come out. You only can play it if it has an H. Only good games start with H's.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, but these games are good games, and let the game speak for itself. Right. There was a lot of hype about this game ahead of time, and a lot of turmoil that we just talked about. But the game it stands on its own. Right. Well, there you go. Halo. There goes that one. Yeah. There goes that out the window.
Frick.
It started late. Any game with H after December. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So if it's a good game, the games will rise. Like they will shine because it is a good game. If it's not a good game, then we start talking about it, how bad it is. Now, don't get me wrong. There are things in this game that I can nitpick on, but the overall 42, 44 hours that I'm in the game, or 46 hours into the game, there's more pros than cons. I don't need a nitpick. I fell through the map the first maybe hour and a half. I fell through the map. I restarted the game, and then I went back to the same spot where I fell to see if it was a fluke or if it was actual. And I fell through the map again. I went, oh, they didn't cover this up. I said maybe they'll fix it in a day 1 patch if they know about it. If they don't know about it, but it's also not my ability to tell them, hey, you got a hole in your thing. It was actually quite fun when I went through. But that was it. That was the major problem I had. I fell through the map. I had 1 crash, but I think it's because I played for 16 hours. I don't think it was the game. I think it was my Xbox that was like, we're done playing today. And it just kicked me out to the dashboard. But other than that, I'm having a blast with the game. It's a good game.
Yeah, Lazaro with a $2 tip says, it's my 40th birthday. The game was a nice gift. Could we get some happy birthdays in chat for Lazaro? Let's get some likes on the vid, too. The funny thing, well, this isn't funny. This is a shame. Because the first thing I noticed when I loaded up the game was all these accessibility features that have been championed recently. Hey, that's really helpful. That's really great. There's people on Twitter that are all about accessibility features for people that are colorblind, legally blind, all these different things. And they have like a really good number of accessibility features. Not an insane number, but a good number.
Right.
And then a big, talking point and trumpeted virtue lately is inclusivism, and that's a hallmark of the Harry Potter franchise. Eugene has made that point multiple times in chat that for a lot of people, the books were all about being inclusive and, anybody can be a wizard or a witch or whatever, and they, it fought against these things. And now for many people, it doesn't feel that way. They don't feel welcome because of, a single, like a handful of tweets from JK, right? Like that's all it takes for them to be like, well, now I don't feel welcome in that community. I think that conclusion in and of itself betrays something deeper and more damage. Like it shouldn't be that easy for you to feel unwelcome. And it also is a shame because the game is super inclusive. Like the third person I met was blind, and I thought that's cool because it didn't feel ham-fisted in. It's part of its character. Like it's part of his wand. It's part of his. It's literally a part of how he experiences magic is the fact that dude can't see. Right. Well,
same with the owner of the 3 broomsticks. It's a transgender person, right?
Apparently, that was like a really late ad in the devs that you want to do it.
They said it was like two, but they put it in, but it didn't seem forced, right? I actually made a joke, right? Because I didn't know it was a transgender person, and it was the voice of it was a woman on the screen, but it had a man's voice. I went, that's a ma'am. Going back to that GameStop employee or that talked to the woman it was a guy. He's like, it's ma'am, it's ma'am. So I made that joke because it was a deep voice. I didn't get any kickback for it. Maybe I will now, but I was like making a joke at that time, and I went, oh, it is a transgender person. And I was like, okay, but it didn't feel forced in any way, shape, or form. They kind of just throw it in there nicely, and that's fine. If it's part of the lore, if it's part of the story that you want to tell, great, right? If it doesn't feel like it's forced in there, even if they did force it in there, the dialogue that she has doesn't feel forced to me. The story, the quest line you go on doesn't feel forced. It's a nice little sprinkling of information for there.
Yeah, I wish they wouldn't have done that because it just drew more criticism. Because, like,
Of course.
Ominous Gaunt, his whole storyline and character arc kind of centers around the fact that this is a blind student that can do magic and he experiences it differently. Kind of how, like, in Doctor Strange, like, the one guy didn't even have hands, but he could still do the dark arts. Like, he could still do the mystic arts, I mean. And I like that. I do think, like, oh wow, you made a character's voice lower. Like, that was I think that was a mistake. I don't think they should have done it. If that would have been their intention from moment one, was to say, listen, we're gonna get heat for this. We can make a clear statement and have a main character in a storyline. The problem is even if it would have been well intended from moment one, and they created a really good character like Ominous Gaunt, where, like, that's like they really connect with the wizarding world because they didn't have a place and now they do, they still would have gotten criticism for it. They'd been like, you're just doing that to try to satiate. And it's like,
singling.
Yeah, they would. I don't think they could win either way. In that particular category, I think either way they would have gotten torched for it. I don't think they would have stood a chance.
Well, yeah, because if they didn't put it in, then people would be like, oh, you didn't put it in. And then if they did put it in, they'd be like, oh, I can't believe you put it in. It's a lose-lose situation regardless. I just thought it was, I don't get mad about that stuff, especially since it's a new character. Now, if they took an existing character, let's say this took place in Harry Potter, and then all of a sudden one of the main characters that we know from the movies or the books was all of a sudden changed into that I would have a problem with, right? But it's a new character in their game that they want to do, and I think it's okay. You know, I didn't find it too offended in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you could kind of tell the voice wasn't quite right, and you can do that with your character. You
Your
can
voice
you can
weird.
make your own. And I heard it's ACG said don't mess with it. He said it sounds kind of digitized if you do it.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's a question I think about the Game Awards and about, is it going to get praise for the accessibility? Is it going to get praise for being inclusive with the cast of characters? And is it going to get nominations? Like, I'm really curious what Jeff Keighley's going to do with the Game Awards. Like, by then, will the heat have died down? Then he's like, are you kidding me? It's like the second or most, it's the first, it's going to end up being the first or the second most sold game this year. At the minimum, it's going to be a top 3 sold game this year, and top reviewed, top played. To literally ignore it at the Game Awards, I will be very disappointed. I'm like, that's not what the Game Awards are about. The Game Awards are supposed to be acknowledging excellence in game design, and the developers of this game have crushed many categories that they set out to do. Right. I'll be very disappointed if that ends up happening.
Yeah, it wasn't like exactly last minute. It's been in there for quite some time, because this has been going on with Hogwarts Legacy since 2 years, since 2020, or I guess 2.5 years. They've been getting criticized for J.K. Rowling's what she said, and then with the games coming out. So they've been getting criticized. So sometime between 2020 and now is when they inserted that character into the game.
The most remarkable headline I saw recently is somebody who worked on the game said they wouldn't be buying it, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm confused. You made money, earned a living, built something, and that thing that you built is funneling way more money to her than your one purchase would have, right? It was like the articles. It was like the articles that try to get sanctimonious. It's like, you're promoting the game for free. You are worse than the people who decide to buy it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, look, stand by your morals. Like, if you worked in the game, you must feel dirty and taking a shower like you worked on this game, but then you don't want to support it. Like, you're okay taking the money that you're getting, but you're not okay playing. But whatever. Let's move on, shall we? Because that's just. I want to say a word I can't say.
Oh, they were part of a support studio. Oh well, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They got paid to work on the game. They should have said at the very start, I can't work on this game because I don't agree with the author of the game. And they went, she's got nothing to do with it. And they went, okay, how much am I getting paid? Right? Like, that's where you should have drew the line. You should have said, no, I'm not working on this game, but you're paying me really well, so I'm gonna keep working on the game and then complain about it afterwards.
A support studio that was contracted. Nobody forced them to work on it. I don't know.
If you believe in something, you will not do it. You'll be like, I'm not doing it. I'm not working on this game because I just don't like this person. Nope. Money talks. Bullshit walks.
You know how in The Matrix he says there is no spoon? Like, there is no goalposts anymore. They just conveniently move where people need them to move. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, get fired or work on it. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I mean. You conveniently move the goalpost to protect yourself, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not going to buy the money because 10 cents of the 70 will end up in JK's pocket." But I'll work on it. I'll keep my job.
I like what Teddy said. Teddy said they're not buying it; they got it for free technically. So they gave a copy to everybody that worked on the game. Here you go. I'm not buying it. That's even worse, to be honest, because then they tweeted out they're not buying the game, but they didn't say where they were getting the game from. They got it as a birthday gift.
Third-party contractor, not Avalanche outside contractor. Like I said, there are no goalposts. You just move them to the convenient position that you need them to be in. Like that's that. At that point, what are we even talking about? The standards shift to where you need them to be.
Maybe the person that worked in the game was blind and deaf, and they didn't know what they were working on, and they're just really good coders. I don't know.
Yeah, after they worked on it, they're like, "Wait, that's what we were working on? Really?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Okay, I want to know: are you going to do the 4-character thing? Because when I first opened up the game, I'm like, "Oh, there's 4 character slots." Wow, like the first thing I thought of was Destiny, right? I got my 3 character slots. I got all 3 classes, right? Are you gonna? Because this game is huge. It's huge. Are you gonna do that? You gonna have the 4 character slots, 4 houses?
I'm definitely doing 2. I don't know if I'm doing 4. I think my chat would kill me if I did 4 characters playing this game for the next. Well, I mean, Jedi Survivor got pushed back, so I got time because that's the next game I'm
yeah, that's right.
In. So I got time. That's all we got. We got time. I won't be putting the time that I'm putting in right now, though. Every time I do the playthrough, I'm not sitting here for 12 hours a day, playing through the campaign 4 times. So it'll be more laid back, casual go through. I won't 100% the game, so I guess it would go faster because I would just be doing the main story. But yeah, I want to see the 4 endings, and I don't want to YouTube it. You know what I mean? Like I want to actually experience the 4 endings, and I think it was pretty cool because you did a mission. I tuned into your stream, and you did a mission. It was nothing big, but you grabbed a note off a rock, and then you went down to where Hagrid's house is, and then you blew up a pumpkin, and you read a note there. Mm-hmm. I'd never done that. I've played the game for as long as I have, and I've never come across that quest line.
It's unique to my house. Yeah, there's a couple quests that are like that.
Oh, okay. See, and I think that's cool. I think little things like that would be interesting to go back and play for each of the houses.
If a Dutch developer developed a game, yeah, because of how much I hate the Dutch, right? That's a meme in our chat that I really dislike the Dutch. My challenge with this game and doing more than 1 character is this. I can't play with my wife. If I could play with my wife, this would be like a Borderlands or a Diablo. It would be exhaustively played, right? Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to convince her. Maybe she'll get hooked tonight, and she'll be like, "Oh no, we can definitely play separately because we have 2 TVs, 2 PS5s."
Right.
So we'll see if she gets hooked tonight. I'm not convinced that she will, but if we could play together, oh my word, yes, I would do all 4 houses. We would do every square inch of the game. We would be playing this game for the next year or more, given how long it would take, because we could only play for a couple hours a night. But that lack of being able to play together, I'm not just like analyzing, oh yeah, they're going to add online, they're going to add co-op, they're going to add live service. Like, I'm actually genuinely hopeful that they do, because it's like,
I am too.
That would change my experience of the game dramatically.
I'm going to be I'm going to be a main streamer where I'm playing the reverse bocce ball game. That's all I'm going to play from now on. I'm going to just try to get as many wins as possible because I feel that that's going to be an online purchase, and I want to be the number 1. I don't even know what the game's called. I don't even know what the game's called, but reverse bocce ball. Summoner's Cup, right? That's what it was called, Summoner's Cup. Summoner's Court, not Cup. Summoner's Court. I want to play that professionally. That's what I want to do. I'm really good at it.
So should all Activision employees quit if they didn't think the company did enough with regards to the issues that are there? No, but if you're going to publicly state that you won't buy Activision games while actively working there, shut the frick up.
Yeah. What's your morals? Is your morals that you don't like what the company's doing, or are you okay with it because you're getting paid for it? That's why I'm saying just shut the frick up. Like, the fact that someone's going to walk into the public and be like, I won't buy this game and support her. You worked on it. You got a paycheck by working on it. Shut up. Like, I won't buy an Activision game because they're not doing what's right, and I don't want to support them. You work there. Shut up. Yeah, I did that. I quit a job in the film industry. I didn't like what was going on, and instead of getting a really fat check that I know I could have made by just keeping quiet and doing the thing, I could not bear to work for that company for one more second. So I said, I'm out, and I quit the job, and I had lost tens of thousands of dollars because of my morals. I was like, I'm not doing it. So you got to stand what you believe in. Sometimes it's lonely.
Yeah, I've turned down numerous contracts and opportunities because I don't agree with. You know how many times I've turned down money for Raid Shadow Legends? I turned down a very lucrative G Fuel contract. Like, I've turned down so many offers because I'm like, no, I don't agree with that company. That would be like me accepting money from some company and be like, yeah, but I don't buy or use the product. My gosh, it's toxic. Oh Lord. Like, I would look like an a-hole if I did that. So you can't turn around and do that. Like, if you have those convictions and you feel that in your heart, but you feel stuck and you're just going to keep working there, fine. But if you're going to walk into the public, be like, I'm not going to buy this game. You want to latch on to the virtue. You worked on it. Sit down and be quiet. Nobody wants to hear from you. What's the point of even saying it at that point?
Right.
It's just moral grandstanding, and it's not impressive. It's cheap. It's cheap is what it is. And it's tribalism and it's cheap. It doesn't do anything other than draw lines in the sand and create more toxicity and more polarization. You're not achieving anything.
If Raid Shadow Legends wants to give me $5,000, I'm going to play the game first before I say yes or no. I'm not going to say yes to the $5,000 because I probably won't like the game. And then I don't want people that are in my community buying that game to sell it. You know what I mean? Like, it all depends what you believe in. So.
Yeah. No, I get Raid Shadow Legends emails like every other week, and they're always very generous offers. And I'm like, no.
I've had because they're making buku bucks off that thing.
Yeah. I had a website offer me a very lucrative thing where all I had to do was a 30-second mention, and it was like one of those sites that like sells currency. And I was like, no. I was like, that's everything that's wrong with those third-party sites. Now, Detective Seeds says, if you could make one change, what would it be? Co-op. That's all I need. And to me, I would be in heaven. If I could play co-op with my wife, I'd be in heaven. I don't even need live service.
Agreed. Just one other person to go on missions and do the story with, like that would be 1,000 times better.
Yeah. That would completely change my experience of it. I would experience the game in a dramatically different way, in a more exhaustive way, if I could just one. I just need one, right? Like what Mike said. I don't need 4 people. I don't need raids. Yeah. I don't need a battle pass. I don't need live service. I could live in this game for a year or more if it had co-op.
Like, look at Fallout. When I played Fallout 3 and 4, I went, man, like me and Sarge, my brother, who's on my podcast with me, right? We talk about it all the time. We're like, man, Fallout 3 just had one other person to play co-op. Like, you have a companion. I was like, man, I wish you could be that companion that we could play together. Then Fallout 4 came. We said the exact same thing. And then they came out with Fallout 76, and I was like, yeah, this is multiplayer. I just wanted co-op. Like, all I want is just one other person to play the game with. I don't need massive multiplayer. I just need one other person to play with and banter. Like, it's different, right? Like, if me and you play together, Lono, but we're on 2 separate, and we're talking through the headset, right? We're both playing the game at the exact same time. We're both in the world at the exact same time, but we're not playing together.
Yep.
That's not the same. Like, if we were in the same world, it's just a better time. It's just a better time.
I always had that experience in Skyrim. Me and my boy, we would get in a party and we would talk. We would tell what we were doing. He was like, oh, you got to go here. I found this thing. You got to do this. I was like, oh, no way. And like, that was really fun. But the minute a truly co-op game would come out, we would play that. Like Dead Space 3, everybody's like, Dead Space 3 sucked and they ruined it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, Dead Space 3 was amazing because I was hungry for a co-op game. And my friend and I devoured it because that's all we wanted. We just wanted a game we could play together. And, you know, I'm actually glad it launched the way that it did because it can only go up from here. Like, if it launched with live service or multiplayer or co-op, that could have lowered quality or diluted some of the content. So it's like, no, this is great. Depth, breadth, substance, awesome. You nailed it. Please just add these things that would completely take it up a notch.
If you, I watched the video last night from, I forget the YouTuber's name. I think it's Juicehead? No.
Yeah, Juicehead.
Juicehead. He was going over mods that were happening on the PC, and there's already a modder who's already putting co-op in the game. Already working on the co-op in the game. It's only been out for 3 days, and he's already working on it.
Well, they did that seamless drop-in, drop-out co-op for Elden Ring because people were like, come on, because the way it works is so frustrating. Like, it's like, bleh, you know, and he's like, make this, the Lords of the Fallen is going to have seamless drop-in, drop-out because I think that's a headache for some people.
Here's another thing they found out on the PC as well for Hogwarts Legacy, that the exclusive mission that's on PlayStation, a modder found it, and it's in the game for PC. They can unlock it.
Of course it's there. Yeah, it's a license. It's only a 1-year exclusive, so it'll hit other platforms in a year.
You get a 20% bump with money on the PlayStation because of it. Yeah, because of the store that you get it as well.
Yeah, seamless co-op would be absolutely be absolutely amazing, because whenever I come to a game like this, I know people do this, right? They come to games and they have demands. They have things that they think absolutely, you know, must have. And I try to actually avoid that, right? I actually try to avoid it. I think if I come to a game with this sort of laundry list of things that I want to do, I'm likely to sort of sabotage my experience, you know? But with this game, it's almost like you sense beneath it that there could be so much more. You almost get this sense that you're looking at the I would describe it as like, I feel like this is the beginning of something, is what it feels like to me. If they were to do the ongoing instead of the sequel, how do you think they're going to handle our year? Because, you know, we're a 5th year. Do you think they'll advance our year?
I don't know. I think if they add like a multiplayer type of thing where we're all at the school together, I think that you just kind of, because the time just goes by day and night, right? Once you hit summer, maybe you're just in summer. I don't know. Maybe you could just change just like you could change day and night. Maybe you could just change the seasons to what it is. I'm not too sure the way they could do it with the live service. I think this is why I think it's more instant space. I think they keep adding more content. Like if you go to the main screen to pick your content, it says additional content. There's a button there for additional content. Why would they make a button just for the skins that for the pre-orders, right? It seems a little strange they would just make one button for one DLC for the things that you could pre-order. It feels like they would be adding on to it if it's different missions, different expansions to the map, different relationships. Maybe they add a Ravenclaw companion in there, and you have to go through the Ravenclaw relationship quest line. You know that scene in the trailer where you get sucked into the book?
Yep.
Now I'm not in. I haven't been. I don't know where that is in the game or not. But that could be DLC. That could be literally you get sucked into the book, and that's a whole other DLC that you're in a different world inside the book, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a mission that you go to the poachers that you walk into a tent, and the tent's small on the map, but you hold X, and then all of a sudden you go into that tent, and that tent is gigantic inside. It's a magical tent, you know. It's like the TARDIS in Doctor Who, right? It's this giant world inside the thing, and you're going through like a small mini dungeon. There's so many things they could do because of what the lore is and what is Harry Potter and the world that it's in. I mean, magic is a thing, so you can go through a doorway and it opens up into this giant other world. They can just download. You know, I don't know. It just seems like it's so easy to put in. And I do believe that they're going to do it because I still believe that they're going to add DLC to the other WB game of Gotham Knights, the way the case files are. I feel like they're going to add more case files to that to keep that game like relevant going forward to the people that like Gotham Knights. I feel like the people that like Hogwarts Legacy, they're going to keep little packs, little things that they can just put into the game.
Yeah, I hope it happens. And I'd be interested to know how soon they'll be willing to speak about it, right? Because this is something I think you would want to do kind of while the iron is hot. You have everybody's attention, so I would imagine, especially before all of the really big games and all the really big marketing things start to kick up this year, you know, I could see them saying something about this in the month of February. Like before we get out of February, they'll be like, hey, we're not done. Now, the additional content button could just be for the deluxe edition Dark Arts because they said you could buy that stuff later. But I don't know why you would use the phrase additional content. You would just label it that.
You would just label it just that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sven says year 5 could be, you know, Hogwarts Legacy 2, year 6, Hogwarts Legacy year 7, and then Hogwarts Legacy MMO. pick a career post-graduation. I actually think you could take that entire idea and shrink that way down. I don't know if you need to do, because you got to imagine how long it would take them to get all the way to the MMO. You're talking 3 years to get to the next game. Maybe. That's if they continue to use Hogwarts, so they have existing assets to make. So that's 2026, 2029. You're talking about the MMO not landing until like the mid-2030s. I don't know. That seems like a timeline that would be absurdly long. You're talking about a non-live service game taking 10 years to become one. I think that's too long.
Teddy here, I said the exact same thing last night on my podcast. I said, I can see Uganda, like, because they bring it up in the game.
Yeah, she brings it up.
Yeah, so summer vacation, what about if you go visit her? It's part of the story. You go visit her. She's like, you should come back to my, and check out Uganda. And that would be a cool expansion, right? You go back there. I don't know. Waiting for Hogwarts. I do believe, I said this last night, I do believe that this game is the next franchise. So I do believe there's going to be like a Hogwarts 2 or 3, whatever. Right? If it's, I don't think it'll be named that, but there will be a sequel in the works. And up until that point, I think they're going to add DLC, paid DLC for this game in the future, leading up to that one.
Yeah. I could totally see that. I really, really could. And at this point, it's just a matter of how they do it. I don't think it's a matter of what they do, or I'm sorry, it's a matter of when and how they're going to do it. I think there's too many clues in the game to point to that. But I want to. I'm gonna do another play session for you guys today because it is launch date, but I have something I need to send you to first. So if you're interested in Hogwarts gameplay, make sure and subscribe to 30 and Still Gaming, 30 NSG. He'll talk in chat. Click his name, throw him a sub. I'm gonna send you guys to a really great premiere. Apparently, God of War Ragnarok is ramping up advertisement. I'm gonna send you there, and then that's gonna send you to a gameplay session. I am gonna play some more, and then I'm gonna play tonight with my wife. If you're not a member, consider becoming a member if you want to watch that. Mike, other than Hogwarts and live streams, tell them what they can find if they come subscribe to your channel.
You come to my channel, you get a talk show in the morning called The Daily Grind. We go over topics sort of in the same gist as what Lono does over here from 10 o'clock in the morning to about noon Eastern, Monday through Thursday. In the evenings, I do a Let's Play, 30 plays. We play different games, usually different games on each day of the week. And then Thursday night, I do a podcast called Generation X Gaming. It's a weekly podcast that goes over a few of the top stories in the past week, and I rant along the way with my brother. We've been doing that for 9 years, so come check it out.
Yeah, like if the evening slot works for you, if you guys enjoy my talk shows and you're like, oh man, the evening slot works for you, Friday nights you can hang out with my wife and I if you're a member. It is members only. But then Thursday nights you can hang out with Mike and his brother over there at 30 NSG. And again, if you're looking for that gameplay, I am going to be playing momentarily, but I do want you guys to check out this God of War Ragnarok. If you haven't seen it, there's rumors. Apparently, there's going to be a Ragnarok Super Bowl commercial. Not even rumors. They hinted at it on their Instagram, and they're putting like Mjolnirs all over the world, like big. They're building stuff. Why would they be doing that? I'm really curious if there's something coming, and I walk through some theories in the video. And then when that video is done, it'll send you some gameplay. All right. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with myself and Mike. Again, always remember to support 30 NSG on YouTube as well as this channel and all the channels that we ever do any kind of work with. We should be having Doc Dark on the stream with us next week. You can click the link in chat if you want to head to the God of War Ragnarok premiere. If you want to head there now. If not, this video will end and redirect you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.